they basically said to all their people that we're going to reduce costs and we're going to make an organization more productive. What actually happened was you had a whole pile of people that didn't even log in. You had a whole pile of people that designed their own way of working. And for me, this is one of the biggest failure points. If you imagine that we're all in a rowing boat, and if everyone is rowing in a different direction in a large company, stuff doesn't get done. You go backwards.
What would happen if we just told the truth?
Welcome to TruthWorks, where we dig into the nitty-gritty of leadership and work.
And what needs to change? I'm Jessica Neal.
And I'm Patty McCord.
Our journey together started in HR, but trust us, it's evolved into something wild, honest, and well, a bit rebellious.
So throw out the handbook. We're here to redefine rules to work for us, not against us.
Let's dive into another episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TruthWorks. I'm Jessica Neal, your host, and I'm here with a friend of mine who's going to help me co-host today, Jeff Markowitz. Hi, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Everybody will remember Jeff was on the show a few weeks ago. We had a great conversation, and he just couldn't get enough, so he's back to hang out with us.
Took me a few weeks.
Yeah, I know it did. You're a busy man. Yeah. Well, Jeff, he is busy, but he also likes to play golf. And my husband was in a golf tournament all weekend, and that meant I didn't see him for days. Do you go out, do the tournaments?
I do, but I'm in Park City now, so I'm not golfing.
Okay, good. All right, good. But more importantly than Jeff's golf habit or hobby, I don't know what you want to call it, we have a very, very special guest today. This is a woman I met a few years ago and through one of my investor meetings. And when you have all these meetings all the time and you meet all of these founders, and all of them are truly great and smart and special, but then you meet ones that you know have a spark and that are maybe a little bit different than some of the others. And that is what I felt when I met Siobhan Savage, who is here today. She is the co-founder of a company called Reejig, and she's going to tell us all about it. But when I met her, the energy that I got from her, the passion that I got from her was just very different than what I was getting from some of the other folks I was meeting with. And we just hit it off and became friends, and I'm excited about what she's doing. I'm excited that she's a female founder because there's not enough of them. Yeah. And I'm excited for Jeff to get to know her because he hasn't met her yet. And I'm excited for you all to get to know her too. So welcome to the show. Siobhan, how are you?
I'm great. It's finally sunny in New York, so I've got my t-shirt on.
Oh yeah.
So no, I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
No, the other day I saw you. Yeah. The other day I saw her in the office and she was literally wrapped up in like a blanket.
Blanket?
No, I had to go to Target to get a $20 fluffy fleece because my office was so cold that I had to get something to wrap up because it was freezing. Yeah. So I'm happy to see the sun.
Yeah.
Jessica, you said something. What was it about your first interaction and that energy level that was just different? I mean, you've seen so many people. Like, what was it?
It's hard to explain. It kind of like I said, it was a spark. Like she had this like way to captivate me very quickly. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get captivated. You know what I mean? But she just drew me in and I was glued. I was paying attention, and the passion that she feels for what she does oozes out of her. And I think you'll see that. And maybe that's exact. Maybe that's.
It's like when a tornado meets a volcano, what happens, Jeff?
Right.
Good point.
Right. And so, Siobhan, I want you to tell everyone your story. But before we get into the rejig of everything, take us back through how this all happened. Like, because I know, but I want everybody else to know.
Okay, I'll go a little bit of context because my accent is probably confusing everybody on the call. I'm Canadian born, Irish raised, lived in Sydney for 15 years, and now I live in New York. So I have like the weirdest accent, and it depends who I'm talking to, depends on how far I'll go. So I've had a pretty traveled, like early upbringing. Started my career in workforce strategy. So my brain is really programmed around like strategy, optimization. How do I move work to worker? How do I make a business like high velocity? Like my bonus in my previous life was connected to how well the business was doing in terms of productivity. And so you can see that kind of like brain part of my head thinks around like, I want to move fast. I want to do high velocity work. I want my business to do really well, but I also want my people to have access to meaningful work because then they stay longer and the flywheel continues. And yeah, really spent my career obsessing around workforce agility and making sure that I could move work to worker freely. I could never have thought big enough to think that agents would become a form of worker in the context that what it is today. But like, that's really where I started my like career and probably spent like 15, 20 years doing that all over the world as well. And some huge multi-billion dollar workforce strategy. So that was my first part of my career. Second part is I've built an AI company, building a work operating system to help large organizations move work to worker in the world of AI. So that's kind of where my expertise sit. I do get this like really great viewpoint that I think a lot of people don't get to see. I think in the world now where they're splitting it into two camps, there's one camps that are obsessed about agents, and there's this other camp that are obsessed with like workforce strategy and optimization and org design. And I actually believe in order for this AI moment to have the moment that it deserves, you need both lockstep together, or an agent's just an agent. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background. I got two little girls, an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, who are pretty feisty. They've become little Sydney beach babies to now New York City girls. So they drink matches and eat Sweetgreen around New York. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I wonder where they get their spiciness from.
Oh, and I'm one of 12 children, 8 boys. So if you feel the feisty, that's the savage coming out of me. And that's generally because of being raised around 8 big fighting boys in my house where you had to like step up to be heard. So that's probably where the passion comes from.
Yeah, 12, one of 12. Oof.
How are you going to prepare your 11-year-old and your 8-year-old? I mean, it's a long way off, but how are you going to prepare them for what the future looks like in their careers?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, I mean, my kids are in a really different situation than probably most kids in their school because their mom probably works 16 hours a day. And I have to find things for my kids to do around me. So my kids help me create content. They take content ideas from Trello. They put them into my custom Claude with my skills and they curate content for me. Like my little ones are like learning how to do like commenting and adding people on LinkedIn. So like from an early age, my kids have been wearing the Reejig hoodie, right? They have been programmed to like help mom make more money. I think just we met maybe, I think it was one of the conferences and my kids were part of the conference booth, like handing out leaflets. And they would only let you take a photo of them if you tagged their mom in on LinkedIn. So they're good. But I think like my little one has dyslexia and she has really struggled with learning. And I think the one thing that I talk to her about is like, in this new world, actually the skills that she has are these beautiful human, like she's very funny. She connects really quickly with people. She can make conversations with people in a lift and do really well. A lot of those skills are going to be the ones that are going to be really favorable for folks in their career in the future. So like really making sure that I'm helping them think how to make sure that they can connect with people, build relationships. So that's where we talk a lot in my house about, obviously they can build agents and they're only little people, but how do we make sure that they are building the skill sets that'll make them be able to build their own companies, sales, like marketing, the components of work that will still exist because they're very human centered. I mean, listen, we have all the data in the world that tells you about work. And I don't think we still have the answer about how work will change. Like parts of work will change, but it is still yet to be played out like exactly. But I do know that part about the human component of relationship building and that type of skill set is where I'm going to drive them to spend a lot of their time.
Well, yeah, I mean, in this new world that none of us have quite figured out yet, the human to human skills become way more important than sort of the administrative skill, being able to write an email. You won't have to write an email. Something else will do it for you, but you still need incredible judgment and you need to be able to relate to people.
Right? It's interesting because Jessica, I have 2 boys. Both of them are actually in recruiting, one in New York, one in LA. And, people ask me if I encourage them to do that and then what I think about AI affecting recruiting? And I have no idea. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you always have to have the relationship, and the relationships matter, and AI cannot take the place of a relationship,
Yeah.
face to face, conversation to conversation. But what do you think?
I
Yeah.
mean, my first proper job was a recruiter. So that was the best training that I could have ever got in my whole career. Like we had to stand and make 60 calls to candidates. Unless you booked an interview, you weren't allowed to sit down.
100%.
Yeah. I
So
remember
like
those
I
days.
built these like literally I built the most incredible skills where you could slam the phone down on me and I'm like, yes, I get to do it
Okay.
again.
So, Jeff, are they training your kids the way that they trained us, or have
Uh,
things evolved? Because
Have
I
they
want to know.
softened?
so the older ones at Heidrick, and they have such a regimented way of training, which I think works. My younger ones at True,
Uh-huh.
and it's a more entrepreneurial, newer firm,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what he's doing, it's just very different than the way I learned.
Mm.
Yeah.
That skill
Yeah.
though, see
I
being
was
able to
raised
pick
by
up the
wolves.
phone. Yeah, like same as me. It's the ability for your sons to pick up the phone and be able to connect with a human in like 5 seconds because that's your shot. Like that in itself is like an ultimate skill set that would be transferable. I mean, I've been able to take that skill with me right now. Like I built the business to where it's at because I have the ability to pick up the phone and have a conversation and cut through really quickly. So I think there's a lot around like those skill sets that won't go. But also I seen this demo not so long ago and the tech folks were pitching for investment and their whole plan was that they've got one product which represents the candidate and one product that represents and then they go out and like interview each other. So it's like imagine two iPads sitting in a boardroom like interviewing each other. And I was like, on what planet is that going to happen? Like seriously, if we get to that place in the world where like we have got to that, like that's not a world that I want to be part of, and I'm certainly not going to be designing for that because that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty scary.
That
Yeah,
would be
like that was
scary.
a real tech pitch. That was a real thing that
Interesting.
I was present for. And I
Interesting.
was like, we're going too far here, guys. Like pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, pull it back. Tell us, Siobhan, like what you're seeing out there, because I think that right now this is AI. Everybody's talking about AI.
Yep.
But and it is a big strategy agenda for CEOs, CIOs, CHROs, and figuring out not only how they're going to utilize AI in their organizations to make them maybe more productive or save costs, who knows, but no one really knows like the impact that it's going to have on the number of jobs, the exact skills and tasks and things. But you're kind of getting a front seat to not
Mhm.
only this agenda, but the concerns that are coming along with it. So what are
Yeah.
you seeing? And you work with very, very large companies. So
Yeah. So we work with probably the most ambitious companies in the world. Think of your most complex, they employ the majority of the world's population. That's the
right.
type of orgs that we work with. And they're big, they're complex, they operate in pharmaceutical within FDA regulators, or they operate in banking or huge retailing. Like we operate across that whole sphere. I love big and complex. Like that's kind of where my sweet spot sits. So when I'm talking about this, I'm not talking about a startup that's building, a people team. I'm talking about like really enterprise work because it's very different. And I think the investors hype a lot about all of this stuff, which is not real. It's just like that can happen in a pod of 5 people. But if you transfer it to over 100,000 people, it's a very different reality. What I've seen, I'll tell you first what I see is not working. And then I'll tell you what is working. So typically what's happened in enterprise is the CEO has come from somewhere, a board meeting or some description of like something has caused this external pressure for the CEO to then say, we've got to do AI. We want to become an AI first company. Everybody needs to do this. They spent probably the first 2 years of the large language model movement really focused on risk and aligning it into the company. So that was really where most enterprises sat. And then probably over the last maybe 12 plus months, it moved into like, okay, like let's start POCs and little pilots. And what a lot of orgs did was they rolled out, big tools like Copilot or OpenAI, or like think of your generic horizontal products. And they basically said to all their people that we're going to reduce costs and we're going to make an organization more productive. What actually happened was you had a whole pile of people that didn't even log in. You had a whole pile of people that designed their own way of working. And for me, this is one of the biggest failure points. If you imagine that we're all in a rowing boat And if everyone is rowing in a different direction in a large company, stuff doesn't get done. You go backwards. Like you literally don't create the velocity that you're intending. So you see a lot of customers, a lot of the press, you see the articles, it's not working, AI is a waste of time. Most of the time, it's actually not the AI is the problem. Most of the time is that they have stood it up like a CRM and did a big change transformation program. They have rolled out a whole pile of Copilot to all of their people, suddenly assuming that they will do prompt training and know how to pay an invoice in a different way because they did a prompt training course. So you see this it's like a transformation theater. It's all kind of the old way of thinking, old way of doing. And what's essentially happening is that no one has actually thought about the work and how the work runs. And if you scale that with chaos, you're going to create more chaos. So what we're seeing with companies is that there's so much money going into this in enterprise now. There's so much money. Think of the big top companies and then think about all the verticals that are popping in with like new startups. And a lot of that is kind of a little bit AI touristy for me right now, where you're seeing a lot of money's being spent, but they switch it off. Switch it off because they're not seeing the ROI. And when you start to spend multi-millions of dollars on agents and you cannot see that it has in any way transformed your organization, how companies right now are reporting that the AI working is through an NPS score, which I just think is like crazy. Like you need to see how work has changed, not like your employees are saying, don't take this tool from me, so I'm going to give you a 5 out of 5. That is basically what has not been working very well. Now, what is working really well was the way that we have been doing it. And I think a lot of my early career was like, if you don't understand work, and if work is invisible, like think about a company. Most companies have no idea what people are doing. They have no idea, and I'm talking like pay an invoice is a task, but think about the subtask level of all the steps that need to happen when you pay that invoice. No one has that visibility. Unless you plug into every single system within an enterprise. And by the way, the customers I work with, they're never going to allow open heart surgery. They're never going to allow you to plug into their emails, to their calendars. You might see in B2C and into B2B smaller consumers that they're allowing like that level. But the top companies, from a risk perspective, they're not going to do that. So what you need to do is to, one, make work visible, like understand like how work actually runs within your company. So we created like each one has its own industry map where we can tell you basically a map of all of the work, and then we plug it into your org. So you're already day one, starting with context. And then we're essentially giving like a GPS, telling you like, where is the opportunity? Where is the AI able to perform at today based on what your company is allowing you to use? Because there's no point in matching you to stuff that you're never going to be allowed to bring in from cyber. Like if it doesn't have SOC 1, SOC 2, the banks are never going to let it in the door. So you have to like show them the reality of what's possible today. The other thing that's really tricky for anyone to navigate, the amount of forward selling in the AI world is crazy. So they're selling like this whole, I'm going to pay your invoice orchestrated end to end. That's not possible. Like we're talking little parts of this is getting done, not the full orchestration. So what you have is like the organizations who are then bringing this in are getting really confused about like what's even possible. Like what can I actually do? So that idea of like showing them like, here's your work, here's where to go. Here's what agent is able to do this, and we can see performance of all agents based on our customers. We'll show you like the one that performs, and then we're going to re-engineer the workflow to make sure that like we've designed this for AI era. So that's what we're doing with customers, and then proving like, has this actually changed the velocity of the work? So if the invoice took 5 hours to pay before, we're bringing it now down to 45 minutes. We've got evidence of that.
At a strategic level across the org, because it seems like you're right in the center of mission critical things for companies. How do you know that you're doing a good job for them?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of like instant impacts that we look at from like when we go into the company. One, no one has any data. So we're already coming in and we promise a customer that we know 80% of your work without even like touching your systems, because we've already spent $40 million building these models, over the years. Before even like large language models were like a real thing, we had already built out a view of work, and then we've like upgraded that over time. So like that's kind of like we make work visible, which becomes like credible data for your CFO, for your CIO, for your CHRO. It's kind of like one of my other customers described it like a COVID moment, where now like these leaders have to get back around the campfire together to solve a problem, because it's not the CIO's responsibility. It's actually a collective group of leaders that need to become AI first, right? So we're giving you the data to like make good and informed decisions of where to even go. And then the fastest value impact is, we're not an agent like builder ourselves, we're an orchestrator. So like we partner up and are agnostic to all agents. So we will connect you to Copilot if Copilot is the right one, whether it's Salesforce, whether it's Claude. Like we know the performance of the agents. We know how they perform, how to perform them. We know how to deploy that and how to build it. And then we measure like the before and after. So like we don't think the unit of value to a customer is agent performance. We believe that the AI workflow is the unit of value. So if we can take out this workflow and reinvent it, and there may be a ServiceNow component, there may be a Copilot moment, there is like several different agents that could sit along one workflow. We're basically telling you that we can take your time from 5 hours to 4. What is really interesting, though, Jeff, in your question, it used to be 2 years ago, it was all about cutting costs. Everybody was doing AI for cost cutting. We've seen a really big shift now in probably the last 12 months. Most customers are saying there is a pocket, to be clear, in every org where there is some pressure. But generally speaking, the CEO narrative is we want to keep costs flat and then we want to make more money. How do we reduce increase our margins, like reduce our cost, but also make more money? So one of the other things that, we've spent a lot of time and money building on our side is like, I now know every task, what it's connected to. So I know which tasks make you money. I know which tasks will like reduce risk. I know what tasks are connected to like low joy, low value work, so that you're kind of getting this like view of like, this is our business strategy. Here's the opportunity. Here's where I go. And we drive them. Already that is like instant impact. But for us, like we want to make sure that you are reinventing over and over. So it's going to be a forever change. So think of us like an operating system. We call it the work operating system. So we sit as critical infrastructure and we play in between all of those major leaders, whether it's in the IT space, the HR, ops, and they all use our data for redesigning the organization. But it's a live, dynamic plug in and out of all of your systems and feed system as well.
How do you make the case to a CEO that is only interested in cost cutting? Still.
So there's one of the things that I think we've done pretty well is, there's cost cutting, sure, but then there's how do we reallocate that cost into more higher value work, like making you more money. Any CEO I sit in front of, and I get like to have the greatest access at the moment just because of the way we're thinking, right? And my challenge is always like, but why wouldn't you want to make more money? Like, don't just go after cost. In my business, we focus on amplification of the things that we know make me money. And we also look at areas where we could, reduce cost, or there's stuff that people hate doing in our company. Like, why wouldn't we take that off? And then the employee will stay longer in my company because we've created like a really great, like role for them to play in. All three of those connect to money. Yeah. So like, we're not selling this in a way, which is like this fluffy thing. We're selling it based on like, you care about making more money, saving money and reducing risk and keeping your people longer, which also connects back to cost. This is the way that we would push you to do it. And it's working because we're seeing now that we're able to move customers into, I would call it stealth change management is what we're doing. So I really do not love this whole like theater of transformation where everyone spends millions of dollars stamping up a program and it's a 12-month program with 40 million costs, and then everyone gets judged if things don't work. What we're doing with customers is we go in, we take 5 workflows a week and we compound. And you constantly keep adding and no one gets freaked out at an employee level. Think about it like an iPhone upgrade. They're getting upgraded to like, here is actually how this invoice is paid. It's very subtle. It's very ambient to the employee. It kind of creates this like different experience where, it's not as threatening, but also like over time, if you can see like 5 workflows that are really high value, over time, you keep adding more and more in one department. Imagine 2 departments, imagine your full org. You start to see that our customers like, why are we not doing this everywhere? And like, we get this like really rapid, like, why is this not scaled across the whole org? And one final thing I'll say, you're starting to see a team being built around this capability now, which doesn't exist typically. It's not IT, it's not HR, it's this like workforce innovation, work architect thing in between, which is like a blend of being an architect, but also a builder. And when we're talking to customers, we're saying like, the architect designs the house, but the builder will bring it to life. And you need both in your world, with work being the house, right? So it's like, how do we connect those two things in?
And then when you're, re-architecting the work and tasks are getting completed maybe by an agent, what are you helping the organizations understand from an upskilling their employees' perspective?
So whenever companies roll out prompt training to all their employees and they expect that the employee suddenly knows how to pay the invoice in a different way, it's madness. Like, how do you think that that employee will translate that into this is not how you pay the invoice? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And it's like so silly, but when you say it out loud to a customer, they're like, oh, we've just spent like all this time picking use cases and doing prompt training. And I'm like, what did you prompt train on? Like a chat of like Copilot? Like that's just like, that is no one, like brains can't consume that. So that is like a thing that I get really annoyed about with customers. But what you typically see, and I'll give you an example using the invoice example. If Jane in accounts pays this invoice, only parts of that subtask are going, not the full task. So you want to know, like, people have skills, but your jobs have tasks and you need skills to complete the task. So if you're taking little parts of work out, what skills are being removed, but you're also introducing new requirements of tasks, which we haven't had to do before. So what are the skills that I need to do to complete that? That then tells you this like emerging and declining requirement of skill for your organization. Another thing we've seen a lot, especially in Europe, is like a lot of companies went out and paid consultants to tell them like, what will the jobs be of the future? And they spent 2 years driving their employees to these like made up worlds. And then think of folks that are in like the hardship environment of like, I'm working 2 jobs to pay my mortgage. And then they've been now told from their company that they need to do these courses to make sure that they're like fit for future. And then 2 years later, HR turns around and says, oh, by the way, like, we're not going to need that anymore. And so sorry about that. And this is the part, like, I think there's a bit of like leadership on the HR side required in this moment too, because how do you know how work changes so that you can prepare your people for the future? But even just simply down to like showing people how to now pay the invoice. Like when you upgrade your iPhone, you get an upgrade notification that tells you like, this is actually how the phone will be changed and the bugs that are getting fixed and the changes. Like imagine your employee gets shared. Here's the step-by-step SOP of how you now pay an invoice at our company. Even that in itself is enough to bring the individual on the journey. I think there is more to be said about the big shift in the market around like really where it depends on whether or not the employees adopt the AI, whether this AI moment also has its moment. Because if people don't actually do the things that we want them to, then we all get kind of like the AI moment doesn't happen, right? Like so there's like this really important part around the employee to make sure that they are co-creating this moment. And also it's not a threatening moment, but also if you are changing it, show them and give them the skill set to be able to adopt that new way of working. So they're kind of some of the core things that we see with customers.
I'm one with everything you see in companies, and you don't have to mention anything by name, but have there been situations where you would not take a company on as a customer because whatever you're seeing or not seeing is freaking you out?
So, and it's so early in this journey, like 3 years ago I do remember having certain conversations which caused me to really think about my role to play in this moment. And like, I believe there's two parts to this. Like on one side, absolutely, this is the most greatest opportunity to be really bold and capture this moment. I really do. But I also believe in the responsibility of making sure we don't leave people behind. And, a lot of the customers that I work with are buying us because we are very public about the both. The way that we've designed our operating system is making sure that we're bold and responsible, and that feeds in and out of the operating system itself. I have had pretty heated conversations with unnamed individuals where they're harvesting people out of jobs. But they're paying like $50 million for consultants on the other side, which infuriates me. And I think that's a lack of leadership. And I think that won't last in this. I think there will be a part where we're going to get to as a society where we're going to hold our leaders to account. And, there will be a moment where like people will have a loud enough voice because like this historic place that they're presenting right now that the agents are taking over the world. Like, guys, people are not even paying the invoices right now with agents. They're not even logging in. Like, we're like, really like the realistic view, like startups are different and hyping. The other thing I would just say is the companies that are typically out there raising the big hype around this are usually selling you an agent. Like that's the other thing. Like if you like cut through the crap, you actually like, and the real story, like a lot of that isn't true. And they're usually selling you a product for a reason so that you think that they're doing it in the best possible way. And that's not essentially always what's happening.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. So I want to go into the future a little bit because it's just something that I've just been trying to wrap my head around. If I'm a CHRO and it's 5 years from now and, this AI thing's moving pretty fast, I probably have a large population of employees, if you will, that are agents. And I have maybe a large population of employees that are humans. But how should I really think about performance on these sites? Like, how am I thinking about the performance? Like, I'm managing agents, and then I'm also managing humans.
And then the humans are managing the agents.
Yeah.
So it's
right.
like this whole
And so is it the human that's managing the agent incorrectly, or is it the agent I don't know. But I'm just this is going to cause some wrenches in performance.
Yeah, and I think there's like the story for the next 18 months to 2 years story. And then there's the who knows story. Like, how much are we believing that it will get to that part where, it's completely taking out all full end to end. Like, I'm yet to see, I can see the potential, but I'm like, we can't see that in data yet. Like, that's a hypothetical scenario, and whether or not the enterprises will allow it into their org too. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the other part. Like, will that really happen? I think that you will see a different shift in the requirement of a CHRO. I think that you're starting to see a movement of CHROs in market right now. And I think a lot of that will be that you're going to want folks that are very business centric in that role. I think the thing that used to annoy me about being in HR was that I was seen as the support staff member, which I wasn't. I was making the company way more money. And my bonus was connected to that. So that used to really annoy me. But I do think you're going to get to the point where that CHRO rule needs to shift, and whether it's even called that anymore is probably a thing we should probably
come up with a better name.
What should the name be?
I don't know. I can't think because listen, we moved to talent at Netflix a long time ago. So we got, but then when we went into original content, chief talent officer, I'm getting scripts and headshots, and I'm like, I know that, not that kind of talent, but
they're hoping you're going to put in a good word.
Yeah. And, but I think, and I don't like chief people officer because that also sounds, people.
Yeah. And it's also not work. It's not like chief work officer either, because then you're forgetting about the human.
Right.
I think at a whole, what you're doing is workforce strategy, right? Whether it's human, agent, contingent worker, consultant, you're the orchestrator of work to worker is the actual thing, and then all the parts that need to happen underneath that to make sure that high performs.
I always thought about, because I never thought about myself as the human resources officer, but I always thought about myself as the chief effectiveness officer. My job was to make the company more effective and to move faster, to make decisions better, to have
org effectiveness,
to have no dysfunction, no misalignment, have excellent communication, operating at such an excellent level that we would win. And, a lot of that is through people, but then a lot of that can be through structure, or it can be through
how you
context.
Reward.
Yes, right. So,
yeah. And I would say there's also this other part to the debate of whether it even sits in this sense of HR. Because I'm also seeing this new thing happening in a lot of my customers where it's a kind of half IT, half HR, and you're taking skills from both. And then there's these new hubs that are popping up, and think of them as Navy SEALs popping in and out of the org to go and help them. And I think one of the things I would say, regardless of where it sits, this skill set needs to be built within. You can't rely on externals to know how to reinvent your organization, because this is a forever thing that we need to do as companies, right? So anyone who's listening to this now, whatever camp you're sitting in, it doesn't matter, but you need to make sure there's a team that are being trained up to do this, that own this going forward, because we don't just do the 9-month transformation program and then we're okay, back in the bottom drawer, we're done. It's a forever continuous loop of change that will happen in the org. So I do think, I was literally building out our courses today specifically on this our filming today was focused on like trying to teach as many people the skills that I have, because in our customers, we keep getting the same questions and I keep getting pulled into these meetings. Can you teach us like how to do this? Because they don't know how to do it and they don't want to pay externals the
Well,
amount
the
of
externals
money.
probably don't know how to do it either.
They have no idea.
Yeah.
And how do
Yeah.
you do this within your own organization?
So I've got this like pretty hairy goal that I've set for my team. Whether we do it, Jeff, is like we're going to be $1 billion company with under 100 people serving enterprise. So we are on track, nearly halfway there in terms of like where we want to get to from like revenue goals and like, I mean, the second wave is like I'm about to start scaling. So that will be the interesting thing about how to, because it all's fine when you feel like you've got it under control. But like once we drop those things off the rocket, we don't know what's going to happen in that next part. So, but my team, like we have to be a live case study. We have to live and breathe what we talk to customers. And if we can't redesign ourselves, we do have the privilege though of like having a completely blank canvas. Our
Yeah.
customers sit with the biggest, most complex. They've got regulations that they must, work around. There's so much complexity that these folks have to work within to even deploy an agent. We don't have that. And that's why, like, I think like a lot of customers, I spend time talking to them about like the way I think about work, and I design my work in a very different way around like, what's the outcome I'm trying to achieve? What's the tasks that are needed to do that? And is it human or agent? Like
Yeah.
so simple. That's the framework that we use in our team. If they can't solve, they have to go and try and solve it with an agent first before I'll give them budget. But what it means is I'm getting incredible talent that are focused like 10Xers, like we get 10X talent that can come in and we then wrap agents around them. And we're performing way above where we should do. Like our margins are off the chart, our payback period in terms of like CAC and just how we deploy capital and how fast we're returning, how fast our product development goes. Like it's full on because we're trying to like invent while jump off the cliff at the same time. But that's what we want to maintain. And we're hoping that we can do that at scale. So I don't know. Let's see. The stakes are high.
Sounds like
The
you're on
stakes
your
are
way.
high. Yeah, I think you're doing a good job. But I want to shift a little bit. Enough of AI, I want to talk about being a female founder. And like, there's just not enough of you. Probably harder for you to get funding than maybe some of your male counterparts in the industry. But I want to talk about your experience with that.
So I'm not going to give you I'll tell you like honest, like my funding experience was incredible. I got the best investors, like on my cap table. So I never had that experience.
Yeah.
I had like, we never went out to market. We got inbound, we've got the Salesforce Venture folks. We've got the Airtree folks, biggest in APAC. We've got the folks that curated Atlassian, like we've got a really strong
You do.
cap
Yeah.
table. I think that part of my journey was actually okay. And even during like the period, like, like we originally, we started our business in like an early idea when I made the pivot, and like I was like, we have to go deep on this, and everyone had invested like a lot of money into that. Very supportive. So like my experience in this has been great. I think the part about being a female CEO that's annoying is everyone tells me what to do, and it has like no one will ever ask me like, have you thought about this? They'll just tell me like, you should do it like this, and I'm like, in my head I'm like, do you not think I've like thought about this for like
Who are the
Yeah.
people that
years
are
before?
telling you that?
I mean,
Everybody, probably.
everybody,
Everybody.
like a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, there's this, she's an incredible, leader, ex-president of like SAP, and she gave me really good advice. And she was like, Siobhan, one thing you've got to learn just from watching this play out is that you're going to have already lapped people about 6 times, and just don't even give it the energy. Just in your head in that moment, just remember you've done the 6 laps, and you're so far ahead that by the time you explain yourself to everybody else that has opinions, their opinions, you've got like actual execution experience. So that's one thing I think is tricky. Because my co-founder, Mike, doesn't get that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Like he goes like, ask her, she's in charge.
Yeah.
So like that's a thing. But generally speaking, I think no, Melanie Perkins in Canva in Australia was like a really early like little shiny star for me was like, if she can do it, I can do it. Like that was like not in a competitive way, but just like that's possible. If someone like her could do something like this, then why not me? You
Mm-hmm.
know, like why
Yeah.
not me? And then half the time I sit in rooms with a lot of, you know, the folks that I'm being put up against, and I'm like, is that it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so like I don't
They're
need
not
to
that.
get the confidence from like, well, it's just kind of like, I think any of my friends that are wanting to build, my advice is always like, build something like really valuable. Like it's about money at the end of the day. If you're talking about investors, like you have to give them a return and just make money, like focus on money, and then all the other things like are going to come like after that. But I've been very ruthlessly focused on building a really good company. And, you know, we will do our Series B probably in the next few months. So I might have a different opinion around a lot of American investors. Let's see. But, you know, like I think the experience so far has been great.
Yeah. Do you feel any amount of pressure because you are a woman founder, a woman CEO?
I feel pressure in the sense of like, I know that if I'm choosing this, I'm choosing not to do something else,
Mm-hmm.
which is generally where guilt comes in. But I think dads get this too, right? It's like for me, I work like 16, 17 hours a day, like every day. Sundays I'm working. My kids are in my office with me on the weekends and we do projects to make it feel like it's not work. But that's the part where I feel like, you know, I started my company and started my whole entrepreneurial journey, like pretty much right after having my baby, Indy. So that was like, I didn't spend probably the time that I maybe would have done for my first baby, but then I'm making choices.
Right.
And I talk to my kids about this all the time. Like my kids know, like we're fiercely competitive as a family. Like even our kids are really competitive. My view is if I didn't do this and someone else did, like that would kill me for 10 years to come longer, which means that I'd be like a sad mom, not like a happy mom. And right now I feel like super fulfilled. It's a very difficult job what I'm doing, but I feel like I'm a very happy, fulfilled human because I'm getting like stretched. But there's that thing around like
Guilt.
where time goes. Yeah. Like, and I
Yeah,
think it's
no,
just,
I mean,
that's the thing.
do guys get like moms have mom guilt, right?
For
So
sure.
when we're with the kid, we're like, we should be at work and we should be doing that. And we feel guilty that we're not doing that. And then when we're at work and we're not with the kid, we're like, we should be with the kid. Why am I having so much fun at work? Like, you know, why am I not with the kid? Do you have that? Do guys have that?
I remember, you know, when I moved to the Bay Area to join Greylock, we moved our kids and
How old are your kids, Jeff?
26 and 23.
Okay.
But, you know, they were in sixth grade and third grade and they used to draw up stick figures of me on a telephone. Like that's, well, on a cell phone. So that was their pictures of me. And I felt
Yeah.
awful. And then they would be listening to me on calls in the back of the car.
Yeah.
And they couldn't stand that I was working all the time.
Yeah.
And then when they graduated from college or when they were going to graduate from college, they both want to do a recruiting.
Right.
It's like, how did that even...
Sell.
How did that even...
Like baked, you baked it.
Well, you set a good example, right? Your little stick figure on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. I still have that picture.
One of the like most guilt-ridden things that happened to me was like, this was like, you know, at the part of the business where it's like about to die or it could not die, you're like right in that like important moment.
It's do or die. Yeah.
Yeah, like there was probably like 6 times within the day I nearly died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that kind of like intensity. And at that time, and like my husband is in the business too, right? So like my whole family's in this thing. And at the time, Indy would have been about maybe 2. And you know those little, what do you guys call them in America? Like the little prams that the doll prams? Yeah. So so my 2-year-old is like pushing the stroller out to the front door of the house and opens the front door. And I'm like, where are you going? Get back in. And I was on the phone and I was like, get in. I'm on a call. Like, get back in. And I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm getting the dinner. And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, I'm getting the dinner. And I was like, what do you mean you're getting the dinner? And she goes, because that's what moms do. She thought there was an Uber Eats coming.
God.
So she was playing dolls with her baby. And apparently that's how kids are fed.
Yeah.
With through Uber Eats.
I was, my kid was pretending to be on the phone the other day. And I was like, who are you talking to? He's like, oh, just this CEO, you know, just another CEO. Because I'm talking to CEOs all the time. It's like, I'm just talking to the CEO, you know, no big deal.
I love it. It is funny.
I will
That's
tell
so
you, it is
funny.
crazy when your kids go into the business that you were in.
Yeah.
Independent.
I'm
It's
sure
just
it's wild.
wild.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I'm sure you didn't push them into that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Because you and I actually haven't talked about that. When did they come to you and say, I'm thinking about doing it? What do you think?
Yeah.
And what'd you tell them?
I told them, what Siobhan did at the beginning of the conversation. When I went into it, I was at Deloitte beforehand, and a person I met with said at the firm, you actually get paid well to learn how to deal with people better. I was like,
Mm.
wow, that's better than being an accountant. So I
Yeah.
did it. I said to my kids the same thing. I mean, they get life skills in terms of how to relate to people, how to
Mm-hmm.
build a network, work with a network, treat a network well, all that stuff. And I think that skill is invaluable.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it served all of us well, but have they called you and had like a freak out moment? Like, have they called you and be like, what
Yeah.
have I done? Yeah.
Well, not a what have I done? They're just
Uh-huh.
trying to figure it out. They're young.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
hard job. It's like a really
So hard.
external recruitment is like, but it's the best. It's like call center training. It's the best training that you can get. I remember I did door-to-door sales and like they dropped me off in the middle of nowhere to try and convince people to change their electric supplier.
And
Like
that's
things like
amazing.
that are actually like the best training for humans when you think
Yeah.
about resilience, grit, connecting with a human in like seconds is like a really critical skill, right? I think
It is.
recruitment like is a really good place to start because you also understand the business as well. So
Yeah.
like you understand, you have to talk to hiring managers and understand the context of how things work in their company. So you kind of have this like business lens more so than like a lot of other folks within the HR team, like I think it's a really great skill.
I think
Yeah.
it's gotten so transactional though.
Mm.
Mm.
It's like the venture capitalists, when I first started working not for Greylock, when I was serving them, they were all amazing board members. Like they knew how to be great board members. And I think things have gotten so fast and there's so much, it's become so transactional. And the recruitment
Mm.
business has been, even at the senior levels, has become transactional.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's like,
Do you know,
get me candidates, as opposed to get me the right candidates.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
And
there'll be a change though. I
There
think
has
there's
to
going to
be.
be a shift. So
yeah.
if you think about like look at it, OpenAI is a perfect example. They sell copywriting AI tools, but then they go deep in hiring human only expertise to write their copy. We're going to go back to a world where people actually really want the handcrafted, beautiful experience a recruiter brings to the table. Like I think like you can't like that stuff is I think you'll start to feel a shift in people demanding more of that because it just the AI, and I built an AI company, right? So I can say this, like, I think there's a lot of AI stuff that will churn and burn that are getting funded right now that probably shouldn't be getting funded. It's just like a little bubble. But I think in your world, Jeff, like I would imagine that like the more handcrafting and beautiful experience from a human level, the more the candidate loves it, the more the business needs it, especially because businesses don't really know how to judge talent in this new operating model too. So I think like that will be an interesting thing to see. But I would bet you that like that OpenAI copywriter thing is a canary for me. Like if they're hiring deep human expertise for the thing that they sell, that tells you that they are valuing highly that human to human connection is really important. And they wouldn't do that if they didn't see that, right?
Yeah.
So just something like I will be interested to track.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we are unfortunately running out of time. And
Already?
I
We
know,
needed
bummer.
wine for this, by the way.
That was
Where
Oh,
was the
well,
wine?
where was the wine? Next time. Next time. Um, okay.
That'd be a
So
great
we
podcast thing. Just get people on, give them loads of booze.
right,
Like,
get them drunk and talk about AI. I don't know what could go wrong. But we always ask Siobhan for our guest to leave our listeners with some inspiration, some advice. So what do you want to leave everybody with today?
okay. I would say in the AI opportunity moment that we're in, that the opportunity will belong to the builder, not to the platforms. So I believe that everybody listening needs to get the skills to know how to use AI to amplify themselves because the platform is irrelevant. And right now, everybody talks about the platform, but we're not talking about the builder and the people doing cool stuff. And I'm not talking about the PhD data scientists, the technical engineers. I'm talking about Jane in accounts. I'm talking about everyday people like us. How do we create opportunity for them? And I think that is where opportunity belongs to the builders, not platforms. That's what I think will happen.
Yeah, the builders. I like
The
it.
builders. I am a builder.
Like it.
I mean, I'm a perfect example. Who would ever put me in this job?
Me? I would.
You did-
I'd put you in that job. Yeah.
But no AI machine would match me to this job, Jeff. Let's be honest. No recruiter would likely put me in this job.
Yeah.
The chances of something like this happening are just so slim, but that's exactly why I'm saying AI and the opportunity belongs to the builder.
I love it.
And be a builder.
And
Well said.
be a builder. Well said. I love it. I love you. I'm glad you came on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great to meet you.
You too, Jeff.
And I can't wait for all the listeners to hear all the great advice you've had to say. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks for listening to TruthWorks.